This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Len Petroselli. I'm chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And due to the coronavirus pandemic, we are conducting this meeting, go-to meeting on Tuesday, March the 2nd, 2021. I'm going to call on the elected members to speak up. Gavin Forrester. Gavin's here. Annette Streets. Annette's here. Mary Young.
Present.
Okay, and then we also have our Judy Clary, one of our alternates, will be sitting in on these petitions. Judy?
Here.
Okay, also here is Jay Abansky, our planning and zoning administrator, Alex Floric, our town attorney, and Gail DeCilio, our recording secretary. Before I get the meeting started, I'd like to remind everyone to raise their hand if they would like to be recognized by the chair and wait to be recognized and called on each and every time throughout this meeting. Identify yourself by name and title each time you would like to speak. And this is per Governor Lamont's executive order, which allows us to conduct virtual meetings. The public is free to listen, but may speak only at the invitation of the chair. With all that said, I will call this monthly session of the Stratford Board of Appeals to order at 7:08 p.m. The first item on the agenda is Oak Bluff Avenue, and I ask Ms. Young if she'd read that into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 675 Oak Bluff Avenue, petition of David P. DeCilio seeking waivers of the minimum lot area from 7,500 square feet to 4,714 square feet and minimum lot width from 60 feet to 50 feet to construct a single-family dwelling. Hardship, lot created as building lot when Lordship was developed. Configuration of street layout in 1911 created unusual lot shapes where streets intersected. A coastal site plan review has been submitted with this application. Mr. Chairman.
Forgot to unmute myself. Thank you, Ms. Young. Attorney Knott, you'd like to present the petition?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary, members of the board. My name is Barry Knott. I am a lawyer with the firm of Knott & Dunn, with offices at 1656 Main Street, Stratford, and I represent the petitioner David P. DeCilio, who lives at 6020 Main Street, Stratford. Jay, at this time, I would ask you to allow me to share the screen.
Mr. Knott, you should be good to, you should be all set.
I am, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to make reference to the certificates of mailing which were delivered to the zoning office on January 8, 2021. So they are part of the record point in time. This is an application for a variance of section 4.2 of the zoning regulations in order to waive the minimum lot width from 7,500 square feet to 4,714 square feet, and the minimum lot width from 60 feet to 50 feet in order to construct a single-family dwelling on property at 675 Oak Bluff Avenue. At this time, I'd like to make reference to exhibits 1 through 6, which are on your screen. Exhibit 1 is a view of the lot at 675 Oak Bluff Avenue taken from the street. Exhibit 2 is a view of the lot and neighboring houses facing southwest on Oak Bluff Avenue. Exhibit 3 is a view of the lot and neighboring house facing northeast on Oak Bluff. Exhibit 4 is a view of the lot from the rear of the lot facing the street. Exhibit 5 is a view of the Great Salt Marsh, which is across Oak Bluff from this lot. And Exhibit 6 is a view of other homes on Oak Bluff with 50 feet of road frontage. Now, I want to make reference to Exhibit 7, which is a site plan of the property showing the proposed single-family house to be constructed on this property. Please note that the proposed house itself fully conforms to all of the setback requirements of the RS4 zone in which the property is located. In other words, this house meets the front setback, the side setback, and the rear setback, as you can see from those setback lines on this exhibit. In fact, in and of itself, this is the reason that this application is different than the prior applications for variances which were denied, as Jay discussed in his administrative comments. In fact, the prior applications were seeking setback variances in addition to the variances of lot area and lot width. Exhibit 8 is a rendering and floor plan of the proposed house to be located on the lot. Please note that this is a 6-room, 3-bedroom, bath and a half, single-family residential structure. The site plan also shows a driveway for off-street parking. Now, Exhibit 9 is an aerial photograph of the neighborhood in which this lot is located. Please note that there is a red mark on top of the lot identifying the subject premises. Of significance from viewing this exhibit is the fact that this proposed lot is the same size, generally speaking, as the other lots to the southwest on Oak Bluff Avenue, the lot immediately behind it on Washington Parkway, and the other lots to the southwest on Oak Bluff, and the lots to the rear along Washington Parkway to the southwest. And I'll get more into this neighborhood configuration in a minute. Specifically, Lot 10 is a portion of a copy of the 1911 recorded map of Lordship Manor. This was the subdivision map that was recorded in 1911. This exhibit shows in a different form exactly the same thing that is shown by Exhibit 9, the aerial photograph, which is to say that the lot, which is the subject of this application, is more or less identical to the other lots in the neighborhood, especially with respect to lot width. It is certainly exactly the same size as the lot behind it, which is shown as lot number 504, which is the house located at 491 Washington Parkway. Jay mentioned this fact in his administrative comments as well. Exhibit 11 is a copy of the Town of Stratford MetroCog map, which shows all of the non-conforming lots located in that section of Lordship where this property is located. As you can see, there are a total of 127 lots on this map, of which 71, or 56%, are non-conforming lots. On the block where the subject premises is located, which is over here, there are 27 lots, of which 74%, or 20, are non-conforming lots. The point proven by Exhibits 9, 10, and 11 is that this proposed application is consistent with not only the surrounding neighborhood, but a substantial portion of Lordship as well. Now, Exhibit 12 is the full-size 1911 subdivision map of Lordship Manor. And this is a copy of a map that shows the whole area of Lordship from Oak Bluff Avenue on the north to Margarita Lawn on the east, fading out along Island Sound to the south. So you've got Oak Bluff over here, Prospect over here, and Long Island Sound over here. So it looks like a fan. The important and fundamental fact, which you can see from this exhibit, is that this substantial portion of Lordship is laid out in a fan-like characteristic, with the handle of the fan located here at the intersection of Oak Bluff Avenue and Prospect Drive, with the wide extension of an open fan bordering Long Island Sound. So the handle of the fan is over here. The wide portion of the fan-like configuration is at Long Island Sound. The result of this layout is that each street represented on this map contains irregularly shaped lots. Please note that I've highlighted in blue all of the blocks on this map with similar characteristics to the block upon which the subject premises is located, which I've highlighted in orange. So all these blocks have similar configuration to this area highlighted in orange, where this particular lot is located. Also note that the yellow highlighted street right here at the intersection of Oak Bluff and Prospect extends to the north across what is now the Bridgeport airport. Before the airport was constructed, the street leading to the intersection of Oak Bluff and Prospect was a trolley line that ran across the Bridgeport airport property, then a swamp, to get into Lordship. It was the existence of this trolley line providing access to Lordship from Bridgeport, which precipitated the subdivision of Lordship in the fan-like outlet set forth above, and which consequently rendered so many of the lots in this area non-conforming. And herein lies the hardship. Because of the layout of the underlying subdivision map for Lordship, many, if not a majority of the lots in this area are undersized. Jay, in his administrative comments, states, at first glance, this lot is pre-existing and predated zoning. The unusual shape of the lot would appear to satisfy the hardship criteria for granting a variance, should the ZBA deem the proposed development to be appropriate and harmonious with the character of the surrounding neighborhood. And that is a key clause which Jay mentions in his comment, and that I'll repeat it. It says, should the ZBA deem the proposed development to be appropriate and harmonious with the character of the neighborhood. So you could theoretically have a hardship, and yet the lot would be so outrageous and so unusual with respect to the character of the neighborhood that the ZBA shouldn't grant the variance just because a hardship existed. But here we have a hardship which results from the characteristic of the subdivision map, and you can see the proposed use of the property is appropriate and harmonious with the character of the surrounding neighborhood because most of the lots in this area are undersized. Now, historically in Stratford, variances were granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals for undersized lots when three circumstances were present. And I don't mean to suggest by what I'm about to say that you are bound by this historical precedent, because you're not, you know you're not, and I know you're not, and I'm not going to claim that you are. However, it's interesting to note that historically, variances were granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals when three characteristics existed. First, the lot was owned as a separate lot through the years by separate deed. Secondly, the lot was separately taxed through the years as a separate parcel. And third, a separate sewer lateral exists for the lot. Now, I want to reference Exhibit 13, which is a copy of the deed from Corrine Hubbard to Mildred Glenn, conveying the subject premises in April of 1959. Exhibit 14, it's the first page, and the second page is a deed from Mildred Glenn to Fred and Dolores Belcher, conveying the same property on March 20th, 1991. And this deed, first page and second page, is a deed from the Belchers to Dave DeCilio, dated November 20th, 2020. So you can see from the chain of title that I just showed you that the property was owned as a separate lot for at least as far back as 1959. And we go back now, when we do title searches, we go back 40 years. So we don't have copies of deeds prior to this. Dave DeCilio also checked with the assessor's office and the town engineer's office and determined that separate tax bills have issued for this lot over the years and that a sewer lateral exists in the street to service the property. Accordingly, this property complies with the historical standard for approving non-conforming lots in the town of Stratford. Now, finally, because this property is located in Lordship and is within the coastal area, a CAM application was required to be filed. This application was referred to Connecticut DEEP for its review. The Exhibit 16 is an email from John Goucher, an environmental analyst at the Land and Water Resources Division, Bureau of Water Protection and Land Reuse, Connecticut DEP, in which John states, We have reviewed the above referenced proposal for consistency with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act policy and have no comments for the Zoning Board of Appeals consideration. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dave DeCilio, the owner of this property, who would like to address you regarding these requested approvals. Dave?
Yes, thank you, Barry. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Dear commission members, I just want to take a moment to share with you some of the background information about this property and to understand the sequence of events that led up to this hearing tonight. Last fall, the lot was listed for sale on the open market by a company named Larrick, Puente and Johnson Real Estate. A yard sign was installed on the property, and I noticed that. So I reached out to the agent and inquired about the availability of this property. And the agent told me that the owner, the current previous owner, needed to give the neighbors a chance to buy the lot first, specifically the neighbor to the left, which was written a letter. And she told me to wait for 30 days, which I did. After no interest was expressed by the neighbors, I entered into a contract to buy the lot. And I immediately took it upon myself to send all three abutting property owners a letter, the people to the left, the people, Miss O'Brien in the rear, and Joanne Shoemaker to the right, a letter. And I'd like to read that into the record so you understand how I approached this. Stated November 5th, and I'll read this one, happened to be Joanne. Hello, Joanne. My name is David DeCilio, and I have a contract to purchase the vacant lot next door to you at 675 Oak Bluff Avenue. No doubt you have noticed the for sale sign. The purpose of my writing is to ask you for your input and your support. My intention is to purchase the lot and build a small single-family home that will be 100% conforming to the 20-foot.
We can't hear anything.
I'm sorry?
You have to repeat anything.
Okay. You want me to start with the beginning of the letter?
Excuse me, we can't hear anything.
Who is talking?
I don't know.
Yeah, who's speaking? Nobody but Dave should be speaking at this point.
Well, hopefully the commission members have heard, but to be redundant, I'll start again. Hello, my name is David DeCilio, and I have a contract to purchase the vacant lot next door to you at 675 Oak Bluff Avenue. No doubt you have noticed the for sale sign. The purpose of my writing is to ask you for your input and support. My intention is to purchase the lot and build a small single-family home that will be 100% conforming to the 20-foot front, 10-foot side yard, and 25-foot rear yard setbacks as required by the Stratford zoning regulations. The building lot was created in 1911, as were all the other lots in the neighborhood. It is important to me that I speak with you and understand any concerns regarding privacy, fencing, and construction disruptions that may adversely affect you. My goal is to be a good neighbor and avoid any misunderstandings and conflicts. I'm available to meet and review any concerns you have. Please call me at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, David DeCilio. Now, I sent that letter out and I waited. And then I waited some more and I received no replies from any neighbor. Zero. So I took it upon myself to call the neighbors. I could not call the neighbor to the left because I couldn't find a phone number, but I had very nice conversations with Miss Helen O'Brien to the rear and Joanne Shoemaker to the right. I learned from Miss O'Brien that there was apparently quite a bit of bad feelings and strained relationships between the previous owner, who tried to build a much bigger house on this lot, and the neighbors, and we kind of learned a little bit about that history, but I was certainly not part of that. I was really quite surprised when 3 letters of opposition all came in the day before the hearing last month, which is why I postponed. So I took it upon myself to kind of read their comments and determine if they had any merit. Basically, the comments, as you have in your file, were about privacy, negatively impacting the neighborhood, devaluing their homes, and preserving the Lordship community. Clearly, by Mr. Barrynott's presentation, this particular application is not only not harming, it's absolutely consistent with everything in Lordship. If you just drive down there, which many of you may have already done, you can see that. So I understand completely why the neighbors object. You know, they've been, quite frankly, utilizing the land as their own for the last 25 years. They store their birdhouses on there. They mow it. They take care of it. They were offered the property to buy. They chose not to act on that. And now their letters of opposition are clearly designed to obstruct me, or anyone for that matter, from building on it. I think Barry Knott's presentation, Attorney Knott's, was very clear. Mr. Urbanski's comments were very clear. And, you know, their objections, although I respect them, hold no water. So I therefore ask the commission to approve this application, and I'm available for any questions.
All right, let me explain how this is going to work. The commissioners are going to have an opportunity to ask questions. After they ask questions, I will see if there's anyone who wants to speak in favor, if anyone wants to speak in opposition. One person will speak at a time, nobody will interrupt. And I need to actually see, I mean, there's a lot of names up there, but I can't see the people to see if they raise their hand and want to speak. So put yourself on camera, make it a lot easier to move forward. With that said, commissioners, any questions?
And Mr. Chairman, just a suggestion, this is Jay Havansky. Once the commission has finished asking their questions, I can ask Attorney Knott to relinquish his presenter status, and then we'll be able to get a bigger, we can see everyone a little bit, their image is clearer. So you just let me know when to.
Okay, yeah, I thought Attorney Knott was trying to give us an eye test here. Any commissioners with questions? Miss Young.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So a couple of questions for Attorney Knott. Good evening. My question is related to some of the history you provided. If I heard you correctly, you described one of the distinctions between the present variance and the ones that were denied is the ones that were denied asked for a setback and other relief, which this is not. I asked Jay Havansky when this hearing was postponed for any information he had on file about those prior variances and was informed he had no information. What is the resource that you're using for the information you supplied? Thank you.
I got my information from Jay's administrative comments, which are in the file, and they're dated. I forget what they're dated, but he mentions it. He mentions them in the administrative comments, Mary.
And Commissioner Young, this is Jay Havansky. I'll just add a little detail to that. So, you know, we have a list of applications that have been made and for what they have requested. Mr. Knott is correct. There were additional variances sought for either side setback or front setback. However, you know, we only keep what is legally required to keep, fortunately or unfortunately, so we can't go back and look at the full files.
So it sounds like there is no dispute to the testimony offered by Attorney Knott, Mr. Havansky. Is that accurate?
That is correct with the information that we have. Yes.
I'd like to comment a little further on that, Ms. Young. If that were not the case, we wouldn't even have brought this application because it is not proper for the board to approve an application which was previously denied. So if that had not been the case, we wouldn't have submitted this application.
Thank you once again. Something else you said, Attorney Knott, I just wanted to follow up on. You discussed the 3 characteristics, I believe you referred to it as, that prior boards have used in similar circumstances to evaluate an application such as this. I think you discussed the lot ownership, the separate tax status, and the separate sewer lateral status. You made mention of your client having obtained information about the separate tax status, do we have anything in our documentation tonight to confirm what you described on that point?
No, I would only ask that Mr. DeCilio address the board with respect to that question, because he checked on the tax and the sewer lateral issue. Dave, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I spoke with the town engineer regarding the sewer lateral personally, and he said, reference the maps, and there is a separate sewer lateral to service this lot for a single, well, for a dwelling. And also the tax, I have a tax bill in my file. If you want, I can try to pull it out right now and hold it up to the camera, showing the tax record. I don't have it going back to 1959 because I just didn't have access to those records. I only have the current tax bill as of last year. And clearly it was taxed separately because it doesn't have any adjoining property attached to it. All the properties
it
around
had to be taxed separately because it was a separate lot by virtue of those deeds that I have submitted into evidence. So at least back to 59, it had a separate tax bill.
Thank you. Another point of clarification, I think, for Mr. DeCilio. In your remarks, you mentioned the quote-unquote neighbor to the left. Is that the Schumachers? Which left are we talking about?
Okay, standing in the road, Joanne Schumacher is the property, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the property owner to the right. Laura and I cannot pronounce the gentleman's name, so it's sort of a difficult name, are to the
That's
left.
me.
I'm
That's
sorry?
me.
Okay.
That's us.
And then Helen O'Brien is to the rear. So
So
I'm sorry,
when-
Young, your question was?
Well, you talked about the neighbor to the left, and so I was trying to figure out who you're referring to. And
Oh,
if
right.
I understood you correctly, it's the neighbor whose name you were having trouble pronouncing, who will tell us subsequent to us talking how to pronounce
There
it.
you go.
My last question, if I'm reading the deed that was put into the record, the transaction that took place for your acquisition in November 2020, the price tag of the property appeared to be $15,000, which suggests to me that you were aware when you purchased it that this was not going to be an as of right that you could get a building permit for a new house, that you had some understanding that you can confirm if I'm correct, that you would need a variance before you could seek a building permit. Is that accurate?
That is absolutely accurate, but I do have a plan. If I'm hoping that this commission acts favorably, and if not, I do have a second plan in place.
Well, I'd like to address that question. I think what Ms. Young might be talking about is the purchase with knowledge rule. Is that what you're alluding to, Mary?
No, but that makes me sound smart, so sure, that's what I was referring to. Please tell us all what that means. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Well, if you purchase a piece of property knowing that the use is illegal, you are not allowed to apply for a variance to legalize the use. So if Mr. DeCilio purchased this property to put a gas station on it, then came in for a variance seeking permission to get a variance in order to put a gas station on it, he would know that it was an illegal use, and therefore the granting of that variance would fly afoul of the purchase with knowledge rule. However, in this case, we have a situation where the use is a permitted use under the zoning regulations because it's a residential use in the residential zone. The hardship is something that runs with the land. So the fact that the property is undersized relates to the fact that the subdivision in 1911 created these undersized lots, thereby creating the hardship about which I discussed. But because that hardship runs with the land, the purchase with knowledge rule does not apply.
So thank you for that. I now know something I didn't know before, but in conclusion, the purchase with knowledge issue that you just brought up is not relevant. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So the reason, in fact, that I brought it up was since I know Mr. DeCilio to be a knowledgeable gentleman in the world of real estate, I perceived he might have purchased this as a contract purchaser contingent upon obtaining the necessary variances, and was curious, as that does not seem to be the case, and wondered if he knew, in fact, upon purchase that it would be contingent upon obtaining a variance, but decided to take the risk, which is his right.
Yeah, to answer you, Mary, yes. There were offers significantly higher on this property by multiples, and everyone wanted all kinds of contingencies. I purchased it cash on the barrelhead with my knowledge, as you know, serving on this board and other boards in different towns, that this application is very consistent with many applications that were approved. I knew there was a hardship. I knew there was a sewer lateral. I knew there was a separate tax bill. And so I purchased it at a discounted price.
Thank you. You've answered my questions. Mr. Chairman, I'll let you ask if others have questions.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Any other commissioners have questions? Ms. Streets?
We don't seem to be hearing her.
I can't hear her. I can't hear.
Yeah, Ms. Streets, we can't hear you. Are you unmuted?
Maybe she could call in.
I may have muted her. I've muted all of our callers because we were just getting so much feedback from everybody. Ms. Streets, do you know, did you call in? Can you hear me? On the phone? Yes. Do you know which caller you are? Which caller number you are? You did not call in. Okay. Let me see if I can maybe unmute her. I will try. I don't believe you have audio connected to, I don't believe you have your audio connected. Let me see if I can do it for you. I might be able to. It says you're only connected through the web. Maybe we can move on, Mr. Chairman, while Ms. Streets is troubleshoots her microphone or her audio.
Okay, any other commissioners have any questions? None? All right, maybe we can have Mr. Knott relinquish the screen back.
Annette, can we hear you now? No, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what's going on. It might be on your end.
She shows that she's unmuted.
Yeah, I just unmuted her. It's showing up as just she's connected via the web and not audio like everyone else.
Excuse me, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm on my phone and I don't know how to stop the feedback. Just 1 second.
Annette, if you turn down the volume on your computer or your laptop, that should do it.
Okay, just 1 second, please. I tell you, go on, continue on until I get it straight.
Let's
Mr.
give her a minute or
Chairman?
so, because I'll have to go to for and against, so then we're gonna have to bounce back.
Mr. Chairman, Mary Young speaking. There may be some merit in hearing from the neighbors first, as I may have a follow-up question subsequent to the neighbors.
Okay. All right, with that said, we'll move on to, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this petition?
And at this time, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to unmute everybody. So please be
great.
quiet unless you have something to say. Thank you.
All right, so once again, I'm gonna ask, does anyone wish to speak in favor of this petition? All right, hearing none, is anyone wish to speak in opposition to this petition? Now we're gonna have to do, Laura, I can see you raise your hand, so you can go, because I saw you. Okay,
Yes,
go ahead. Or just state
O'Brien
what
and
you do, name and your address for the record.
491 Washington Parkway.
Okay, so who's speaking?
Helen O'Brien.
Okay, go ahead. You got the floor. Go ahead.
I understand that the lot sizes used to be larger, but that's that's like 66% of a lot size in today's world. And I do understand it was 1911, but now it's not. And it's just getting to be where every little piece of lordship is being bought up and built on. And it just feels like it's, at some point you have to say it does become detrimental to the neighborhood. And I didn't get that initial letter that he said he sent out that offered it, the first letter that he read that went to Joanne. I did not get a copy of that letter. But we also didn't get notified by the previous owner that it was going for sale. And the price they were asking was not exactly that. And I was wondering what would be the secondary situation that Mr. DeCilio would have if he doesn't get it? Would he like to enlighten us about that?
I don't want to comment on that at this time.
Okay. Oh, well. Okay, well, I have voiced our objection, and that's all. It's going to be very close to the back of their lot. It's going to be very, very close to the back of our deck. It's going to be maybe like 6 feet, not even. And that seems to me very, very close. And, the property line is what the property line was when I moved here. I can't say anything about that. I'm just saying how that will impact us. Yes, it will. And I think we're just getting too crazy out here in Lordship and building on every little sliver. And it's like a sardine can. That's how I feel. That's just my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak in opposition to the petition?
Hi, I'm Lauren. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm calling from 65 Bluff Avenue. Just to let you know a little history of the lot. The lot originally belonged to Drew Glenn, which was also my house. Property was all one property. Milton Glenn gave that lot to the guy that owned it before, Mr. DeSilva. I can't call his name now at the point. But just to let you know, for years, that guy harassed us. He came and threatened my family all the time. Me as a tax-paying resident to Lordship and Stratford for years, having businesses in Stratford, did not deserve that. For taking care of that property and having that guy all the time harass me and my family and my children, coming to my property, telling me I have to buy that property because he couldn't build anything on it. And then when he would try to sell it, he would put an outrageous price on it. We couldn't even afford it. And this time, this property was sold without us knowing anything. And when I called to get the price on it, the real estate would not even tell me the price because they must have had some kind of deal. And I just want to let you know that I have nothing against Mr. DeCilio because I'm speaking, but the property is too small to be built on it. It's almost half of the size that you need to have a property to build on it. And harassments are still continuing because David Astelio, whatever your name is, I'm sorry, I can't read it well, sent me another letter harassing me. So we're going from one harassing neighbor to another harassing neighbor. We are people that pay our taxes, do what we need to do, never cause trouble in Stratford for 20 plus years, owning a lot of businesses, working in Stratford. So we would not like to be harassed anymore from already buying this property. I mean, they could go by law and we have our own right to oppose or approve. But I am not approving this. Me and my family do not approve this. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Let me just reiterate something here. I understand it's emotional for some people, but just please put your remarks on why you don't think a house can be built there, not what happened 3 or 4 years ago or 10 years ago. Just focus on what's at hand. All right. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition to this petition?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
65 Oak Bluff Avenue.
You're a little light, Jonas. Can you raise the volume? We can just about hear you.
Okay. I just had a question about the, I don't know, I'm echoing, just a minute. 1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Hello?
you're all right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
I had a question as to who offered to buy the lot, because I never knew it was for sale. So I saw the sign, and he said something about that they offered all the neighbors an option to buy. That did not happen. And I also am in opposition because I think that the lot is way too small to put a house on. So I'm also opposing.
Okay, thank you. You're all set?
I'm all set, but I was just curious, were we offered to buy the lot?
That's Attorney Knott's prerogative, whether or not he wants to answer that question.
Okay, because
I'll ask Mr. DeCilio to clarify what he made, the comment he made earlier about contacting the neighbors.
Yes, thank you. Lucy Laraquente Johnson was the real estate agent who was listed the property for sale. It went on the open market and had a for sale sign on the lot. So I, as I mentioned in my testimony, tried to buy the lot and had to wait 30 days because according to the agent now, I know this hearsay in a lawsuit, but for this case, according to the agent, the owner wanted to give the right to the neighbors to buy it first. Now, I cannot speak to the fact if she rang doorbells, sent letters, or not, but the for sale sign was on the front lawn, and I don't think anybody can dispute that for at least 30 days before I put a contract on it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Silio. Or anyone else wish to speak in opposition to this petition? Is there anyone else want to speak in opposition? All right, well, hearing none, I'll go back to Commissioner Streets. Did you still want to ask your questions?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for that. On the planning staff review that's dated January 25th, at the very end, it says that this application has been referred to the Waterfront Harbor Management Commission for review, and the board should consider any comments received. And I'm just curious, have any comments been received to date on this application?
I can answer that question. I've been down this road with the Harbor Management Commission many times in the past, and what has happened over the years is, let me back up a little. Initially, the Harbor Management Commission wanted to see all applications that were located in a CAM area, all right? And the planning and zoning administrator was forwarding all of the applications to them. It still does. However, the Harbor Management Commission doesn't want to see any applications unless they are waterfront properties that abut either Long Island Sound or the Housatonic River. So as a result of that, the Harbor Management Commission doesn't call us in on applications like this like they did 3 or 4 years ago. It got to be ridiculous. Thanks.
And Commissioner Streets, this is Jay Hibansky. The application was referred to the Waterfront Harbor Management Commission on January 7th, 2021, and we have not received any feedback to this date.
Okay, and it sounds as though that's somewhat consistent with this type of application and expected. Is that the case?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have questions? Ms. Young?
Thank you. Jay, I'll let you tell me if this is a question for you or for Attorney Florek. We saw a map shared by Attorney Knott showing many lots similar to this on a subdivision map from, I think, 1911. Can you remind me why we have to grant relief when all the other lots were developed, unless all of them got variances too?
I can answer that.
I didn't ask you, but thank you for the offer.
Okay, well, I'll defer.
So the zone development standards changed. This is Jay Hibansky.
Attorney Florek.
I'm sorry, this is Jay Hibansky. So Commissioner Young, I think what you're asking is why does this lot require a variance where all the other lots had not previously?
Well, it's just a curiosity. I'm assuming that we didn't grant variances for all those lots, or maybe we did. I don't know. I'm looking for a little understanding about old subdivision maps and rights that property owners have and how they've been interpreted in the town of Stratford to still require variances before buildings are constructed as recently as 2021.
Attorney Florek,
Well,
can you shed some light on this?
Hi, this is Attorney Florek. Can I be heard all right?
Yes, go ahead.
So, Commissioner Young, I apologize. So the reason is because when this map was approved in 1911, it was approved by the Stratford Selectmen. And back in 1911, they did not have the power of a planning commission. If they had, this 50-foot wide lot would be protected by subsequent changes to the zoning regulations that made the minimum lot width wider. And to answer your question further, a lot of these lots, I think, were approved previous to 1946. Before 1946, the minimum lot width, I believe, was 50 feet. In 1946, they increased it to 60 feet. So I think that after 1946, some of these were approved as variances. Previous to 1946, I think a lot of them were, you could build on a 50-foot lot as a right.
And Commissioner Young, this is Jay Hibansky. That is my understanding as well.
Thank you both. I have one more question. This perhaps for Mr. DeCilio. Mr. DeCilio, earlier you mentioned you had an alternative, a plan B. A neighbor asked, what is that plan? Attorney Knott said he was not willing to share. Are you willing to share with that neighbor? Could it be possibly you'd be willing to sell back this lot to the neighbors if they wanted it for some sort of profit so you're not out of pocket?
I hired a very good attorney for a reason, and I'm going to heed his advice and keep that private.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Any other commissioners have any questions of the petitioners? All right, before we move on, let me just explain to the people who don't normally attend these, that what we do at this point is we'll close the Oak Bluff Avenue, hear the other three petitions, then we go into an administrative session and we discuss the petitions and vote on them. So we're going to move on with the other petitions and then we'll go ahead, Mr. Clark.
I just would ask Attorney Knott if he wants a chance for to rebut anything that was said by commissioners or people who are opposed. Usually we give applicants an opportunity to offer rebuttal argument.
Thank you, Mr. Florek, but I do not have any rebuttal. Thank you.
Okay.
See, I knew that, Attorney Clark, that's why.
I'm seeing
right,
the applicant raise their hand. Just wanted to check.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bansky. I had just one comment in reference to Ms. O'Brien's comments. She had mentioned in her testimony that her deck is 6 feet from the property line. That is correct. Her deck is in non-compliant. It's supposed to be 25 feet from the property line. The house I'm proposing is going to be 25 feet away from the back of the property line. So the fact that it's close, the property line is close to her deck, has to do more with her property and has nothing to do with my property.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to close Oak Bluff Avenue. Motion by Ms. Young, yes?
Mary Young, motion to close?
Second?
Second.
Judy Clary, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, carried unanimously. Move on to 37 Bullard Court. Ms. Streets, would you like to read that into the record?
Sure. Annette Street, speaking. 37 Bullard Court, a petition of Nancy Bish seeking a site plan review and waiver of section 14.2 to expand a non-conforming structure to convert a deck into an interior half bathroom incidental to a cooperative residential development in an RS4 zone. Give me one moment, please. I'm trying to get up on my screen. The hardship being that the legal non-conforming property and structure were pre-existing.
And Mr. Chairman, this is Jay Hibansky. I'm going to unmute all of our callers. I believe the applicant is one of our callers. If Nancy, you can speak up once I unmute everyone. Okay.
Hi, this is Nancy Bish. Hi, I don't have any drawings or anything, and I just called in. I never did this before, so I'm not really, I don't really know what you need me to do.
Say your name and your address for the record.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really know what you need me to do. I didn't do any drawings or anything like that. I've never done this before. I'm the owner. I'm not the contractor. So I'm not really sure what you need me to tell you.
Well, first off, just give your name and your address for the record.
Oh, Nancy Bish, 37 Bullard Court.
Describe what you're trying to do.
I have a deck, and we're just going to close in the deck and do a half a bathroom and a small mud room.
Okay. That's fine. If that's all you got to present, that's fine.
Yeah, that's really all there is to it.
All right, let's
It's
see if
72
the,
square feet.
let me see if the commissioners have any questions of you on your,
Sure.
petition. Mary?
Thank you, Mary Young, for the record. Nancy, if I may
Yes.
call you by your first name, did you
Yes,
have
sure.
a chance to see the staff comments prepared by Jay Hibansky about your property?
Yes, I did.
If I
I'm not
may,
really sure I understand, what that means. I'm not, I don't really know that much stuff about this, land stuff and everything. I kind of let my contractor take care of it.
well, I think Jay was, in my opinion, was trying to help you help yourself. In his report, he talks about how your property and your proposal conforms to the zoning regulations. The only reason that you're here tonight is because your use is non-conforming to the zone that you're in. And you need to put on the record what is your hardship. And I think if you just repeat what Jay Hibansky said in his staff report, then you'll have met your burden.
Oh, yes, okay, that it's non-conforming. I'm trying to find that paper right now. I'm on it's under remote land use meetings. I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Not sure why I'm not finding it here. Applications, I think, right? I'm sorry,
Correct.
I can't find it.
Applications, and then zoning board of appeals,
Oh, okay, got it.
and then the March 2nd meeting, and then click your application, and you'll see the planning and zoning staff comments.
Right, yes, okay, got it.
And I would guide you to the last paragraph after the italicized.
Okay. The hardship being pre-existing legal non-conforming property and structure. That's
So
what you
actually,
mean.
you can actually start with the subject property conforms with the, after the
Property
italicized.
conforms with the zone development standards. However, the non-conforming uses does not conform.
Yeah, and then finish it right off.
Although there will seem to be minimal impact to the surrounding neighborhood should the board choose to grant the variance sought, the cited hardship does not appear to qualify as a legitimate hardship. And I did talk to all my neighbors, and they had no problem with anything.
You also had approval of the committee?
From the
whatever
board,
it is
from
they have.
the co-op, yes.
Okay, so you have that, okay. Any other questions of the commissioners? Judy? Commissioner Clary? No, no. All right, hearing none, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wish to speak in favor of the petition?
And I have unmuted all the callers. This is your opportunity.
All right, anyone wish to speak in opposition to the petition? Anyone wish to speak in opposition to the petition? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close 37 Bullard Court
Mary Young, motion to close.
by Ms. Young. Second by, I'll second it. I can do that. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. 520 Allendale Drive. Who can we have?
Good
Mr.
evening,
Forrest.
everybody.
What's that?
I'm here for 520 Allendale Drive.
I just got to have somebody read it into the record. Okay, just 1 second. Gavin, would you read that into the record, Allendale Drive?
520 Allendale Drive, petition of Jesse Pena, seeking a site plan review and waiver of section 4.2 to waive the minimum side yard from 10 feet to 6.1 feet and the maximum building coverage from 25% to 27% incidental to a single family home in an RS4 zone. The hardship being declared is the current home is non-conforming and he'd like to keep the addition in line with the current structure.
Thank you, Mr. Forrester. All right, Mr. Pena, just read your name, your address into the record and present your petition.
Good evening, Jesse Pena at 520 Allendale Drive. I'm here tonight to present my petition. My wife and I purchased a home on 520 Allendale Drive, mid-June of 2020. The idea is to grow our family in the home, and as it is right now, it's quite small. We would like to put this addition on the back to make this our forever home. We would have a master bedroom and bathroom, as well as the 2 existing guest rooms. The new foundation would not be wider than the existing home. It would be in line with what's already existing. And my goal as well is to make this an extremely energy efficient home and bring a home from, the 1930s into the 21st century properly.
Okay, you're all set now, Mr. Penna?
I believe so, sir,
With your
unless there's any other questions.
Well, let's see. Commissioners have any questions of Mr. Penna? Ms. Young?
Thank you, Mary Young. Mr. Penna, same question to you as I asked our last applicant. Did you have an opportunity to review the staff comments prepared by Jay Hibansky related to your petition? Because he put something in his staff report that you may find useful to make part of your presentation, which is hardship argument to support your proposal, not related to you and your family and their needs, but related to the property upon which your property sits. Do you want to add anything to your hardship argument?
I did not, unfortunately. I don't think I have that document. My application was submitted in paper, and I don't have an online portal for it.
May I tell you what I was hinting at? I think I'll let you decide if you want to make these your words, but Jay Hibansky shares with the board members that the subject parcel is undersized by 2,100 square feet, which could be considered a legitimate hardship related to the property, not the people who own the property. Does that help you?
I sure hope so.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
If
Any other
nothing else, I
commissioners have any
believe.
questions of Mr. Penna? Mr. Penna, do you have something you wanted to add, or?
I do
You're
not.
all set?
I hope the board decides favorably for our application.
Well, thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to close the 520 Allendale Drive.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to see if there's any public commentary?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wish to speak in favor of the petition? Anyone wish to speak in opposition to the petition? Anyone wish to speak in opposition to the petition? Now hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close Allendale Drive.
Mary Young, motion to close.
Moved by Mary Young, second.
Second.
Streets,
Second.
all in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. 1100 Barnum Avenue, and we'll go back to you, Ms. Young, and let you started it, you can finish it.
Thank you, Mary Young. 1100 Barnum Avenue, petition of Nicholas Molito and Scott Kipnis, seeking a site plan review and waiver of section 16.6.5.1 (a) to waive the maximum allowable signage from 122 feet square to 235 square feet, incidental to a retail store in a CA zone. Hardship, lack of visibility, and improved motor vehicle safety. Mr. Chairman?
Len, we're having some trouble hearing you.
That's because I wasn't here. I let the dog out. Okay. And who's presenting this petition? Is the petitioner present?
Yes, the petitioner is present. Good evening. My name is Nicholas Molito from Fox Rothschild. I'm here with my partner, Scott Kipnis, also from Fox Rothschild. We're the attorneys for Family Dollar. Our client, Steve McMahon, manager of architectural services, is on the phone, and he will be making the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I may have to unmute all of our anonymous callers to determine who Mr. McMahon is. So I'm going to unmute now. Mr. McMahon, are you there?
I am. Good evening. This is Stephen McMahon, manager of architectural services for Dollar Tree and Family Dollar stores located at 500 Balboa Parkway in Chesapeake, Virginia. Tonight, we're making a petition for a variance for our Family Dollar signage here in Stratford, Connecticut. This is one of our largest new Family Dollar H2 formats, which is our newest format for Family Dollar in the country. It's actually one of our largest stores in the country for Family Dollar. And it's really where Family Dollar meets Dollar Tree. It's going to have all the items of a Family Dollar and the best-selling items found in a Dollar Tree. It's why we really would like to have more prominence in our signage on the front of the building. In addition to that, currently the letter set that's being proposed or that's allowed by code is too small to be readily readable, from the main street, and is certainly obscured from Barnum Avenue also. By having larger signs, we've seen in the past, certainly there's economic advantages to Family Dollar stores, and this is certainly a Family Dollar store. But more so, it's more of a safety item for us. What we find is that Family Dollar, as well as Dollar Tree, is typically not a destination location. It's usually somewhere that individuals stop at when they see it in order to get food items or balloons. I can see that. Dollar Tree, for instance, or greeting cards, also in case of Dollar Tree. But it's more of a convenience store that individuals stop at. And what we find is when we're this far back from the street, as you can see in the images that we had provided from Main Street, it would be very difficult to see the signage. This is a unique facade for us. It's very, very massive, and the signs that are allowed by code would be very, very small. We definitely want to have the prominence of Family Dollar with all the high impact items of Dollar Tree at this store. And as such, that is why we're seeking the variance to have the larger signage for both signs. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Ms. Young.
Thank you.
Ms. Clary.
My question to the applicant is, the dollar store has an existing sign, correct?
I am not sure that I understand the question. Currently, we're building out the store, and both signs would be new.
Is there any sign there now? I'm sorry, I did not take a site visit.
Oh, I believe that there is. I'm having a little bit of a hard time reading it on the image. I'm not sure if any of our attorneys can read it. It looks like it was a fitness center.
I believe it's Crunch Fitness.
There you go. It's Crunch Fitness. But it's very hard to read from the road.
Do you know what size sign they?
I do not. I'm unaware if Kathleen Ballman, our sign company is on the phone, they might know how large those signs were.
Hi, this is
No,
Darcy Roy. I'm not sure if you're referring to me. I helped to submit this application, and I'm not sure actually how big the existing sign is. I'm sorry.
Mary Young again. Mr. Hibansky, do you have any records suggesting variances were required for the existing sign that's out there now?
Jay Hibansky here. During some preliminary research while drafting the staff comments, there were no variances required for the previous use or signage.
So I'm going to venture to guess that whomever had their sign there was able to, quote unquote, make it work at 112, if that's the right number, or less, the allowable square footage. Is that a safe assumption, Mr. Hibansky?
Yeah, well, I don't know. They're not there anymore. But yeah, essentially, yes. That's they complied with the signage requirements.
Thank you. And so if I understand the applicant, they believe that they need double what was allowed or what is allowed. Is that correct, Mr. Hibansky? Your staff report, I believe, talks about the proposal would be almost equivalent to double what is allowed.
Jay Hibansky, yes, that's correct.
So back to the applicant, I can understand perhaps that you perceive the need to have more, but double something that's large to begin with, I'm wondering how you came up with that particular number as opposed to meeting somewhere in the middle. Thank you.
Sure. So this is Stephen McMahon again with Dollar Tree Family Dollar Stores. So certainly the tenant that was there previously, Crunch Fitness, were very different tenants than we are. We're a retail tenant. We are not a destination tenant such as Crunch Fitness would have been. Crunch Fitness would have been a location that people would have had memberships for, would have known where the locations were at, and wouldn't just be stopping in. We do find with most of our consumers that it is a drive-by, basically to pick up groceries or pick up greeting cards, as I had noted previously. And the signage standards that we're proposing, the 36-inch Dollar Tree signs, as well as the 42-inch Family Dollar signs, are in keeping with our brand integrity. It's what we see across the country. But again, just going back to the visibility portion and the fact that, and the safety portion, of course, which we're always cognizant of, that's really what we're looking at. So first, with what was there previously, I would say it comes down to a destination location such as Crunch Fitness or any fitness center versus a drive-by and pick out items location. So again, we want to make sure that anyone that's driving by has good visibility of the store, that they can see it easily and can enjoy their shopping experience.
Thank you. If I may, I'll let go of the comparisons between the older sign versus the proposed sign. I'll let that go. I'm trying to, again, to understand, since we don't have the benefit of the Architectural Review Board looking at these signs prior to the ZBA. Perhaps it's Darcy or someone. I'm just trying to understand who decided that we needed to have them this big. You know, was it because someone was driving in a car, looked back at the space and decided it has to be 36 inches tall to be seen? I keep hearing about the branding requirements or nationwide, requirements, things that are not particularly related to this specific location in Stratford. So I'm just looking for assurances that someone looked at this site specifically to make these design decisions. Thank you.
Absolutely. This is Stephen McMahon again. We had one of our engineers, Clark Gear and Latham and Associates, put together a letter that I believe was sent to the board members regarding the location and the fact that it was with the signage that was allowed, that it would be very difficult to ascertain what the business was from particularly, excuse me, from Main Street, but even from Barnum Avenue. That is a signed and sealed letter from our engineers citing the, let me find it right here, the AASHTO, which is the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. And that letter was, I believe, sent out to all the individuals here, denoting that the letter size that is allowed by code would be incredibly difficult to see from, especially from Main Street.
Thank you, Ms. Young. You're all set? Okay, Ms. Clary.
Yes, Judy Clary. Mr. McMahon, you spoke of safety issues. Could you explain that a little further?
Absolutely. So in the past, we've gone through variance approvals, especially up in the Northeast, and I'm sure my colleague Nick Molito can speak a little bit to that, where we had noted that when signage is small and it's hard to see and you're not a destination location, our fear is always for customer safety. So if you're driving down Main Street and you don't know that we're there and we're so far back from the street, a lot of our spaces, as a side note, are very close to the street. So we can have a little bit smaller signage and it usually isn't detrimental to us. But from a safety point of view, what we don't want to see people doing is driving down the street. We know it's 35 miles an hour. I believe we had cited that they only had about 14 seconds to really see it, assuming that they're also going 35 miles an hour, and have to make a quick left turn into the onto Barnum Avenue to get to our space from Main Street. And we believe that that could possibly be a safety concern to them because it's so difficult to see the signage and ascertain really what business is there, being this is a Family Dollar space.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have questions? Hearing none, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wish to speak in opposition of the petition? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close that petition.
Mary Young, motion to close.
Motion by Mary Young. Is there a second? Judy Clary, second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried unanimously. All right, let's close the public portion.
Motion to close the public portion.
By Mary Young, second by Annette Streets. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried unanimously. All right, let's open the administrative session.
Motion to open the administrative session.
By Mary Young, second by me. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Carried unanimously. Okay, first, what is your pleasure on Oak Bluff Avenue? Leave it on, take it off the table, leave it on the table?
If we want to discuss it, I think that's a motion to take it off the table, in which case I'm making that motion.
Correct. Yeah, for discussion, you should take it off the table. That's correct. So Mary Young makes a motion to take it off the table for discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
Judy Clary seconds for discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimously open for discussion. Ms. Young.
I didn't have my hand raised, so I'm interested to hear what others are thinking.
Oh, okay. You always want to go first, so any commissioners for discussion? Anybody want to open this up for discussion? Judy Clary, Commissioner Clary, go ahead.
I can certainly understand the neighbors having 25 years of this open property in between and don't want to lose it. But that lot is just like all the other lots that, you know, I was looking at it from a number of the different pictures, and I don't see why we should say no when it's exactly the same as all these other lots.
Okay,
And it's
anyone,
small.
any other commissioners? Any other commissioners want to comment? No? Well, it's often, Ms. Young.
I don't always want to go first, but I'll take second. So I agree with Judy. I think it's unfortunate that neighbors, many of them, perhaps have grown accustomed to the existing conditions, and perhaps some were unaware that that condition could change. And for some, potentially this was a rude awakening to learn that change is potentially going to happen. So I agree, I'm sympathetic to that. I think I was impressed to hear from Attorney Knott that this application is distinguishable from the preceding applications that were denied by this same board. As my understanding is, those prior applications involved structures that required additional zoning relief, setbacks, coverage, etc. So I'm grateful that if the neighbors are going to have change occur, that they have the benefit of working with a developer who is not taking advantage of seeking more relief, but in fact is just trying to develop the lot under the existing regulations that are on the books. So for that reason, I'm prepared to make a motion unless others would like to discuss further.
No, I just want to comment. I personally think you're better off with a house on the lot than just having an empty lot there forever. So that's my comment. Somebody wants to make a motion to approve, because right now we have a motion for discussion.
So Mary Young.
Motion to approve.
Go ahead, I'll be second.
Motion to approve by Judy Clary, second by Mary Young. Discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, I'll do a roll call. Ms. Young?
I'll second Judy's motion if she cites a hardship for it.
Judy?
The hardship? The hardship is for the neighbors, not for the property. It's a very small house.
Does that satisfy you?
No, it doesn't, but so thanks for asking. I think Barry Knott has offered a hardship, which we can read off the agenda, that might be useful if there was any litigation that we cited a hardship consistent with case law. What he said was lot created as a building lot when Lordship was developed, configuration of street layout in 1911 created an unusual lot shape where street intersected. Ms. Clary is okay with that. Perhaps she will take a friendly motion to amend her motion.
Ms. Clary, would you accept a friendly amendment to your motion? Ms. Clary?
I had to get a charger. Sorry.
Oh, would you just accept a friendly amendment to your motion to approve?
I think she's frozen, Lenny.
Yeah, me too. I think she is too.
Closing.
Judy, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, could you accept, oh, there we go, you're back. Will you accept a friendly amendment to your motion to approve? Just citing the reason for approval. Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, accept it. We'll take a roll call vote. Your vote yes is to approve. Ms. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Streets,
Yeah.
Ms. Clary,
Yes.
Mr. Forrester? Is he frozen too? Mr. Forrester, yes to approve or no not to approve? Okay, I was a
Yes
yes.
to-
And the chair votes yes, the petition is approved.
Thank you very much, folks. Thank you.
Okay, Bullard Court, what is your pleasure? So we want to move to take it off the table?
I'll move
Motion
to take the table.
by
I'll
Ms.
second the
Clary,
motion.
second by Ms. Young. Discussion on the motion. It's off the table, so you can discuss it. So somebody should make a motion for discussion or for approval, one or the other. I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Clary. Discussion on a motion for approval.
Oh, okay.
Would someone cite the hardship on their motion?
Yeah, let me find the, we'll go back. Hang on.
If it helps you, the agenda listed legal non-conforming property and structure pre-existing.
Yes. Is that your amendment to my motion?
Thank you. Yes.
I'll accept your amendment to my motion. Any further discussion on the motion? Well, I'll do a roll call. Yes is for approval. Ms. Streets?
Yeah.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Forrester?
Yes.
Ms. Clary?
Yes.
Okay, chair votes yes. Bullard Court is a petition is approved. Okay, Allendale Drive, what's your pleasure? Well, you either take it off the table for discussion or take it off the table to approve, or take it off the table not to approve.
Mary Young,
What's
I'll
your
take it
pleasure?
off the table for discussion.
Okay, for discussion by Ms. Young, is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, it's off the table for discussion. What is your pleasure, commissioners? Who would like to speak? Ms. Young?
So in reading Mr. Hibansky's staff comments, this is not exactly word for word, but he says, when is enough is enough. You know, everyone cites that, you know, they have an undersized lot, yet everyone knows what they have, but they still come back to this board asking for more. At what point in time, you know, do we say, no, enough is enough? I think that's a fascinating topic that perhaps in our administrative session we can debate. It's just very challenging for me when people are very close to conformance. Like, couldn't they have tried harder with their architect to make it work? I understand the setback relief needed. I guess I wasn't feeling it as much for the coverage, thinking, you know, you were at 23 and you are intentionally putting it over 25. Couldn't you have gotten it to work at 25? So I'm struggling and look forward to hearing what others are thinking.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Any other commissioners wish to comment? All right, well, there's a motion on the table for discussion, so we need to come up with a new motion. Is there a motion to approve by any? A motion to deny? No one? Anyone further discussion? Leave it on the table?
Where's Mr. Forrester at? He often is very insightful on such matters. Gavin, do you have
Mr.
any
Forrester,
thoughts?
you're being paged.
Nothing to come,
We're asking
nothing
for
to
your
add.
insight.
I
What,
have nothing to add.
all
Ms.
right, so what do
Streets,
we want to do?
I don't want Mr. Forrester
Ms.
to
Young?
feel singled out. Ms. Streets, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I kind of share the same thoughts that you have had, Ms. Young, on this petition. I would really have liked to have seen the petitioners find some kind of middle ground or alternative to this. And if this does not pass for approval, I would encourage them to do that so that perhaps this board can approve it. I mean, I'm sympathetic to the fact that they want to, grow their family, have more children, and need space. I've been in that position myself in the past. But I would really encourage them to seek some kind of middle ground so that the board's concerns might be addressed.
So rather than deny, you want to just leave it on the table till next month and let them come back?
I would really, I would like to see that. I wouldn't want to deny it out of hand, but I would like to give them an opportunity to come back to us with something agreeable.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Jay Abansky. I think since, and I'll let the town attorney elaborate, I think since the public hearing has already been closed, it would be difficult for the board to accept any new information that the public doesn't have an opportunity to either speak in favor or against. I know no one was here this evening to speak in favor or in opposition to this application, but just in an effort to protect all the commissioners and the decisions that get made. Attorney Florek, do you have any other thoughts?
No, this is Attorney Florek. Jay's usually right. Once you close the public hearing, you're generally not supposed to reopen it. I mean, there could have been people on the line that, could have wanted to respond to something that was said after they left. So it's usually a good idea just to make sure everyone's had a chance to say their piece before you close the public hearing, because it raises due process issues if you reopen it.
Mary Young,
I might.
Question?
Well, we did give the opportunity for people to speak against it.
Yeah. What was the? Sorry, Attorney Florek. And what was? I was out of the room for a second. What precisely did a commissioner want to discuss or say?
Mary Young, Attorney Florek, I shared, and then Annette Street shared, that in hindsight, perhaps the hearing was closed prematurely, as neither she nor I feel entirely satisfied we heard enough information to get this across the finish line. As I understand, the hearing's been closed and we cannot now ask to hear more from the applicant directly. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about denying without prejudice. Would that allow the applicant to make a clean, fresh start at our next meeting? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Is that an option, Attorney Florek?
I think so. I think you could deny it without prejudice. The only thing I would be concerned about is not a legal issue, but would they be required to file another application fee? I mean, how do you handle those administratively?
I typically won't waive an application fee unless it comes at the direction of the board. And the board feels that this is an application that's worth waiving the fee. I will add a potential another option for the board to consider. It sounds like I'm hearing a possible partial approval, partial denial, approval of the side setback, possibly a denial of the site coverage, allowing the applicant to maybe revise the total square footage of the addition while maintaining the side setback variance, and granting maybe the planning and zoning administrator final approval to ensure that the square footage is under the requirement. And the applicant then has the opportunity to say, you want to know what, we can't make it work, I'd rather make a new application, and that way there's maybe another option built in.
So, Mary Young, I think that sounds like genius to me. Hopefully there'll be a second to the following motion and some additional support. I like what I heard Mr. Bansky describe, and correct me if I get it wrong, Jay, but it would be a motion to approve in part, deny in part, setbacks approved, coverage denied, giving the flexibility and discretion to you as the planning and zoning administrator to evaluate the plans to confirm that they conform to that agreement, and the hardship being, I'm now reaching for my agenda to remind myself, or maybe it was what you had offered, undersized lots being the hardship. Does anyone want to second my motion?
I'll second it. Now, Jay, when they come back to you, there won't be a fee with that. Then we'll leave it up to you to make that decision.
Yes, and if I feel uncomfortable or I don't feel that what's being done fulfills the intent of your decision here tonight, I'll probably, put my neck on the line and send them back to the board, but hopefully we won't need to do that.
Thank you. Mrs. Attorney Flork.
And just one quick thing, Jay, if the applicant elects to come back, can we just make sure that they send, it seems like the board has discussed not charging them another application fee, but can we just make sure that they send certified letters to all their adjacent property owners like they normally would?
Yes, I'll make sure. Thank you.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thanks, Attorney Flork. Thanks,
Mary Young, again, just for clarification, it sounds like we've offered a path that would not require them to return to this board if their designer can make it work. So I hope not to see them again for their sake and ours, but if we do, so be it, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to say thank you to the board for hearing the application.
Thank you for presenting it. Okay, and let's vote on it in the streets.
Yes.
Ms. Young,
Yes.
Ms. Clary, Mr. Forrester,
No.
and Chair votes yes. Motion carried 4-1. All right, finally, the old sign, Barnum Avenue. Is there a motion to take this off the table? Motion to take it off the table so we could talk about it? I'll make a motion to take it off the table. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Streets. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's off the table for discussion. Who would like to speak? Ms. Clary?
Oh, no, I wasn't doing it.
You
No.
just raised your hand? You just accidentally raised your hand? Miss
Yep.
Young, come on. We know you want to say something.
I feel like I've got a reputation. I'm trying to shut down my reputation of always wanting to hear myself speak.
You usually kick it off, so.
Like the last application, I'm troubled by the largeness of these signs, which feels like some kind of financial hardship more than a public safety hardship, so that both entities, Dollar Store, Family Dollar, can have prominence. That sounds highly financially driven, not about public safety. I'm desperate to have the Architectural Review Board be involved going forward in such matters, to let them tell me if they believe a a sign of this size is in scale and relationship with the buildings and its surroundings. If there's someone on the board who has that type of design skill and can persuade me that this is a reasonable request, I will likely join them. I just can't get over the doubling of the size component.
Thank you. I have a quick, is this an illuminated sign?
I believe, this is Jay Hibansky. I believe so. I have to fill out the engineering report.
It's gonna be awfully bright.
Pre-finished coil stock, white diffuser. I'm almost certain that it's an illuminated sign. I'll let conversation continue as I can confirm.
Any other commissioners have any questions, any comments?
I have a question. Mr. Urbanski, this is Gavin Forrester for the record. Mr. Urbanski, do you know how many square foot, or square feet, I should say, Family Dollar is going to occupy on that structure?
I don't know the total square footage. In order to generate the signage requirement, we look at the building frontage. So I don't know it off the top of my head. I might be able to look on the field card while we're discussing, and I might be able to help find that out.
I have a funny feeling the discussion's over.
What makes you say that, Mr. Chairman? This is Mr. Forrester for the record.
Well, you've already spoke. I don't think anyone else is going to speak, so.
Well, I have other things to say, if that's all right with you, Mr. Chairman.
Fine, continue.
This location, it does not have street frontage on Barnum Avenue, is that correct? If I'm not mistaken, the way that this property is subdivided, the street frontage would be considered Main Street, is that not correct? Mr. Hibansky, do you know?
It looks like the building would front on Stratford Avenue, on Barnum Avenue, has a Barnum Avenue address. So the engineering department who gives out the addresses must have made the determination that the building's orientation fronts on Barnum Avenue.
Okay. You know for a fact if there's any entrance to this particular location from the Barnum Avenue side in terms of a front door or any side door to the building?
Jay Hibansky here. I don't believe that there is. I think the only entrance is on the eastern side of the building.
Yeah, faces the parking lot. That's the only entrance.
So, Mr. Forrester, again, for the record, so then this would be a situation whereby the setback of the actual entrance to the building would have to be seen from a distance of Main Street unless there is a brief opportunity to see it when you make a turn from Main Street onto Barnum Avenue headed towards Bridgeport. Is that my understanding? Mr. Urbanski?
Are you questioning me, or is this discussion with the commission? I'm unclear.
I was going to question you because I don't think any of the commissioners, or maybe some of them are, but I do believe Commissioner Young indicated she had not visited the property, so she may not be that familiar with the property. So I was going to direct my questions to you, and if you had the answer, then you could enlighten the rest of the board.
Okay. So I believe, if you are at the eastern plane of the building where you would enter into the Family Dollar, probably once you get past the most immediate driveway curb cut into the parking lot, that's really where you would start to see any signage for the existing Crunch Fitness sign or the proposed signs. And as you make your way closer to Main Street, those signs become more and more visible. And obviously from Main Street, I believe that's where you're going to get your most direct view of any signage that would be on that building facade. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you very much. At this point, I'm going to make a motion that we approve this petition.
There's a motion by Mr. Forrester to approve. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any further discussion on the motion? Ms. Clary?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Clary, you have something you want to say, or?
No, I
Everybody's
was offering
freezing.
a second.
Oh, okay. You can have a second then. I'll withdraw my second so you can second it. How's that? Ms. Young?
Aye.
I want to thank Mr. Forrester if he was trying to help me, who didn't go to the site, understand it better. So Gavin, do I understand that you're persuaded that there is a public safety need based upon the proximity of the building and the need for motorists to be able to locate it? And that's why you're making your motion under a public safety hardship?
Yeah, that is correct. In fact, for one step further, I'm actually going to use your example of 411 Barnum Avenue cutoff, which you made the motion to approve for the very same reason, for the sign for the optics center. And I quote, you indicated that the motion was to approve for public safety reasons. And I'm actually using the same logic that you did with regard to your motion to approve 411 Barnum Avenue cutoff for the very same reason.
Very good, thank you.
All right, let's do a roll call on approval. Yes, it's an approval. Ms. Streets?
Yes.
Ms. Young?
Yes.
Clary? Mr. Forrester?
Yes.
Chair, yes, and petition is granted. All right, next, approval of minutes from February 2, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mary Young, motion to approve?
Motion by Ms. Young. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Streets. Any discussion,
Motion.
changes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Campsite plan review, Mr. Urbanski.
Okay, thank you. As mentioned during the public hearing component of this, the application was forwarded to the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection per state statute, as well as to the Waterfront Harbor Management Commission. We have received no feedback from the Waterfront Harbor Management Commission. The Department of Energy and Environmental Protection stated that they have no further comments, no comments for the zoning board's consideration at this time. I just want to quickly pull out my comments here regarding the coastal site plan review. The subject lot contains a coastal resource identified as shorelands, which are upland areas at elevations in excess of the 100-year stillwater flood level, and located within the coastal boundary. According to the town of Stratford's coastal resources map, it doesn't appear as though the proposed scope of work will have any negative impacts to present or abutting coastal resources. It does not appear that DEEP had any concerns regarding the proposed development either. So considering that the variances to basically establish a building lot were approved, I would recommend that the board approve the coastal site plan review.
Mary
Thank you, Mr.
Young.
Urbanski. Any questions? Ms. Young.
Mary Young, motion to approve the coastal site plan?
Motion by Ms. Young. Is there a second? Second by Street.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 No. Carried unanimously. Item 4, members' concerns and comments. Do we have any?
I'm sure you're shocked to
Good.
hear I have one. So earlier in the evening, you heard me discuss with Dave DeCilio whether or not he was a contract purchaser or in fact the owner of the property. I thought that the
Yes.
agenda and the notice might have answered that question. And so a long way around getting to my point, I'm wondering, Mr. Hibansky, going forward, if our legal notices could describe not only who is the applicant, but who is the owner, because sometimes, but not always, they are not one and the same. Do you do that as a matter of course if they are not the same? Maybe I just haven't noticed.
No, so typically we don't differentiate between an applicant and an owner. That differentiation would be made in the application itself. So if it was the applicant, if it was let's say a contract purchaser making an application as the quote unquote applicant, they would need a authorization letter from the owner to make such an application. So I typically have never differentiated between an owner and a contract purchaser, but I'm curious to know if that's what you've seen done in other places.
Well, what I would say is, unfortunately, I live in a world where people use their disposable income to fight with their neighbors in litigation. So I would just defer to Attorney Florick that if he's okay with the way you're doing it, great. If he, on the other hand, perceives that someone might cite a legal defect for not putting in the notice, both the property owner as well as the applicant, that we change our procedures going forward. But I'll leave it to you two gentlemen to discuss amongst yourselves and make modifications if necessary, or if not, so be it. And I'm done with my members' concerns. Thank you.
And Commissioner Young, I might follow up with you tomorrow just to make sure I completely understand, and then maybe I'll follow up with Attorney Florick.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Attorney Florick, you're all set? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I'm all set. Yeah, I'm all set. I think our zoning regulations might speak to exactly whose name has to be on an application, but Jay knows the zoning regulations better than I do probably. So Jay, if you need me, just drop me a line.
Thank you, Attorney Florick. Under other items, I assume you're all aware of the special meeting on March 11th between the Stratford Housing Partnership, the Town Council, the Planning Commission, Zoning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Architecture Review Board. It's at 5:30 on March 11th. Jay did attach the agenda for that meeting to his email. So if you can go, please notify them that you're going to attend. It's probably a good thing to attend. Questions on it? Because I don't have any answers. I don't know anything about it, except what I read. Jay, you know much about it, or?
Sure. Well, I have staff working on this project, but it's, the state statutes are now requiring each municipality to have a housing plan. And some towns are calling them affordable housing plans. Some are just calling them housing plans. The Stratford Housing Partnership has been had life breathed into it probably about a year ago by Mayor Hoydick. It was established probably 15 years ago. Folks had been appointed, got up and running, and we have spent probably the last year drafting a plan, doing surveys, polling residents and land use commissioners regarding their opinions on housing types, availability, and needs analysis for the town. So, this is essentially our land use commissioner's last opportunity to weigh in on some of the information that's been drafted prior to adoption by the partnership as well as by the council. So, you all have a unique perspective, and especially as land use commissioners, even a heightened perspective on housing in town. So your opinion is valued.
Mary Young, if I could add to what Jay just said. Stratford's town planner and I discussed how, unfortunately, I'm not going to be available at that date and time, but she did encourage people like me, if you cannot make the meeting, to put something in writing and email it to her or Jay prior to the meeting, and it will be made part of the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 6, 2021. What's that look like right now, Jay? The April meeting, do you have anything?
I think I didn't get a chance to look at the sign-in log today, so I'm not sure what we have for next month.
Okay.
I have a feeling we have one or two. I'm not sure if we have enough for a full meeting, but I'll let you know. I'll let you know tomorrow. We'll check in tomorrow.
Okay. Did you have something you wanted to add also, or?
I did, and I just wanted to add, I heard a comment tonight from Commissioner Young regarding signage and architectural review board review. And, the application that we heard this evening, we did discuss it with the ARB staff as well as the chairman about whether or not they felt they wanted to look at the sign application. And they wanted to, however, they don't have any design guidelines. The Architectural Review Board does not have design guidelines for signage. And we felt that it was somewhat either unfair to the applicant without design guidelines in place to evaluate a plan against. So I would suggest or maybe recommend that if the Zoning Board of Appeals is interested in having sign applications reviewed by the Architectural Review Board, you may want to issue a letter as a group to the ARB supporting their effort to further design guidelines to add another layer of review for signs. That's it. Just a suggestion. We don't have to decide it tonight, but maybe discussion for another night or whenever you all feel.
I wanted to volunteer to draft such a letter, and I can share it with you and get your feedback, and you can decide if it gets sent.
Well, what we'll do is we'll put it on next month. We can discuss it under other items. And if
So
it's a go, it's a go.
I'll draft it. I'll give it to Jay, and then he can schedule it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Not jumping on this with both feet. Motion by Ms. Young. Second by Ms. Clary. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting adjourned 9:04. Thank you very much. See you next month. Good job tonight. A little longer than we thought, but blame our former